Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now this is the RTX 4070 Super, and if you want to play the latest and greatest games at 1440p then it's a fine choice indeed. Personally I don't get much time for gaming these days outside of benchmarking videos, but one title I've played at least once a week for the last 5 years or so is GTA San Andreas, an absolute classic that is still in my top 5 games of all time. It needs a few tweaks to get it running at its best on modern hardware, and doing so will yield hundreds of frames per second. It may not be a good idea to play it completely vanilla with uncapped FPS due to potential physics issues, and 500 or so frames per second at 1080p is going to be wasted on most if not all monitors. But why stop at 1080p? We've got a 4070 Super in the system after all, and we're playing a near 20-year-old game. Switching to a 4K display and turning the game up to 3840 by 2160 will knock 100 or so FPS off the average, but as you can imagine, San Andreas is no challenge at all for this performance tier graphics card. I do like playing GTA San Andreas at 4K though, because it really smooths out any jagged edges that even the highest anti-aliasing option doesn't seem to deal with effectively. Again though, why stop here? Now I don't have an 8K display, but enabling DSR from the Nvidia control panel lets us choose high resolutions from within certain games. There are titles that will have a resolution limit, but San Andreas doesn't seem to be one of them. Running in DSR mode means that the game is running internally at 7680 by 4320, but being downscaled to fit our monitor. The end result is a very sharp picture, with of course the performance sacrifices that come with such a high res. Now of course our 4070 Super is barely phased by this, running GTA SA with between 100 and 200 FPS most of the time. It's looking amazing with not a jagged edge in sight. It almost looks sharper than what my eyeballs can actually render. It's not an artificial looking sharpness either, like whacking the setting up on your monitor. This is a great way to play this classic. It's a shame I can't have the radio on for this video so we can enjoy the banger soundtrack together. I could belt out a few classics myself, but cover versions are probably copyright protected these days too. At this point I should mention that I've recorded this video in 1440p, internally, this time around using the Nvidia app, which doesn't seem to affect performance with this game, and it certainly made recording everything a lot simpler. Disclaimer, this video is not sponsored by Nvidia. I just like using their recording software sometimes, outside of proper benchmarking videos of course. Now the reason I mention this is because I actually had to switch to my capture card for the next attempt. 16K. That's right, 15360 by 8640. Magnificent. Who'd have thought such an old game would have such high resolution options? I did have to use a program called Custom DSR Tool to set this massive custom res, and I wasn't sure the card or my monitor would enjoy this experience, but hey, it worked. Now performance most of the time at 16K in GTA San Andreas is around 60 FPS with the very high settings. There are some areas though that drop to like 20 or less, and even here most of the VRAM is eaten up. I wasn't sure what to expect really, but it was certainly playable and incredibly sharp yet again. I then decided to turn the settings down to low to try and make the game a bit more playable. Normally, if you told someone you had to run San Andreas at low on a 4070 Super, they'd probably think your card was dying a very slow and painful death, but here I think it's justified. To be honest, the lowest settings didn't make much of a difference to the performance. I didn't take exact benchmark figures for this video, but I'd say there was about 10 more frames per second on average, and it stayed above 60 a lot more this time too. But there we go. I have made a more sensible 4070 Super video a while back, because sometimes I do get review samples and I have to be a bit more serious, but honestly making these silly shorter ones are a lot more fun. I certainly enjoyed myself making it, and I hope you enjoyed watching. I'm going to give this poor card a well-earned rest now and some time to cool down. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.